What are we saying briefly? That might sound, you know, and the engineers right there. We did say we have two major challenges. We have challenge of generation. For a while, we did not have enough rains, and we were very down on the hydrology in Masinga. In fact, we have not started generating out of Masinga to date, in spite of the heavy rains. We are generating only out of Kamburu, Gitaru, Kindaruma, and Kiambere. For good reasons why we have not started pushing Masinga, because of the challenge of maybe flooding in Garissa. But for a long time, we have not generated out of Masinga because there was not enough water. It was down completely. But having had the rains, and when we can generate now out of Masinga, the transmission constraint is a challenge. Like if we need, for example, 200 megawatts in the western part of the country, the transmission links can only say carry 100 megawatts, to put it in simplistic term. And therefore, when the system tries to draw more power to support the 200 megawatts, the line gives way because it cannot carry that capacity. And that is why we are building alternative routes through Narok. Why Narok Sotik? We build Olkaria Narok. That one has been built already, 132 kV line. We have built Chemosit all the way to Bomet, and the link between Narok and Bomet, which will then complete the link all the way down to Awendo, will give us that relief so that we do not have these challenges of the network dropping every so often. So we know the problem. The problem is lack of investment in the transmission network. And you do know that today the transmission network, in spite of the unbundling of the energy sector into generation, which is done by KenGen and the IPPs, the transmission network done by Ketraco and Kenya Power doing the distribution, the off-taking. The challenge with Ketraco is that it is fully funded by government. And at times like now, when government is a bit constrained, and for a while, in the last several years, we have not invested as much in the transmission network. We are now bringing in the PPP, private-public partnership, to build some of the networks. We are giving out Gilgil, Thika, Mala to Konza, or is that Isinya? We are giving out a number of networks to be built by private capital. What does that mean? It relieves Ketraco from looking for funding from government and having the kind of challenges that we've had. So Bomet, Narok should have been built a while ago. In fact, it was a project that should have been built between 2016 and 2021. But with funding from the French Development Bank, but that did not materialize because of the challenges of funding. And so we are on it. That's why I said we know the problem, we're trying to address it. This time round, we hope we'll get it right and be able to sort out the Western Kenya voltage and frequency challenges which keep dripping the network. So that was the problem yesterday. We are working on mitigation measures to see, even as we take the long haul building of the networks, because building a line of about 90 kilometers will not be done in 2 days. We will work with the engineers to see the mitigation interventions that will relieve the overvoltage or the capacity of the lines, so that we are able to have alternative routes to be able to support the network. Like I've said, we are doing a new bay in Lesos with a third transformer to be able to relieve one of the links. We are going to see whether we can do a 33 kV line between Narok and Bomet, so that as we build the long haul line, which will take about 20 months, we are able to reduce the constraint on the transmission network and be able to remove the challenge of constant power outages. The other one, which really is regarding generation and more importantly the transmission links for Western Kenya, one of the mitigations or intervention that will be going back with the engineers to sit on and give some straight answers as we look at you in the eye is load shedding. What would need to be done, instead of overloading a line and causing the whole country to trip, we would be able to remove some feeders and therefore lessen the power demand that flows through a line, and therefore be able to only carry the amount of power which the line can carry. So instead of pushing the lines to an overload, we will basically give the line the load that it can carry, and therefore have some kind of scheduled load shedding, so that we do not unnecessarily have to bring down the whole country because of an overload which cascades all the way down. But more importantly, have a scheduled load shed in particular areas where the lines are seriously constrained. That is not to say we don't have enough power, but where a line is constrained and it cannot carry so much power, why push the line to carry what it cannot carry and cause a national trip? So we'll be scheduling some minimal load shedding, and we'll work with the various Kenyans and the leaders to understand why the load shedding may be necessary, so that we do not continue having to experience the kind of national blackouts we have seen in the short while. Thank you very much. Can we start from here and come this side?
Thank you. My name is Wilson, and part of the community. At the beginning of the statement, you said that our to establish where the problem was from, and towards the end, just in clarity, you said that it's now clear that it's been a poor investment. Just help me understand that. The last one, have you been enlightened on what in terms of revenue was lost as a testimony?
Can we take the second one and the lady just immediately?
My name is Jasmine from TK, and I want to understand, because when we talk about infrastructure development, building of lines, that's going to take us a long time. So are we promising Kenyans a bit more, a lot more blackouts as we wait for the lines to be constructed, or what are you saying?
Let me start with immediately that one. I did talk to interventions that we are looking at to relieve the constraints on the network by ensuring that we do not carry a load which cannot be carried by those lines. For example, if you talk to Moroni, Kisumu, Moroni, Chemosit, the line is so constrained. It is designed for 80 megawatts, like I said, but as of yesterday, it was carrying 120. When an intermittence happens and the line has to carry more load, it picked another 20 megawatts and went to 149 megawatts. When it is designed for 80, the system just gave way. So instead of waiting for the system to give way, just dimension it and make sure that you remove some of the demand. Because what happens in power, power will be sucked by when you switch on all your homes in the evening. The system will, however constrained the lines are, it will try to carry the power to your house. And if the conductor is not built to the capacity to carry all that power, it then gives way, like when you get a drip in your house. So that's what happens. What we're going to do, like I mentioned, is to work on quick fixes, which will include, like I said, putting a new bay, a new transformer in the source, looking at how do we quickly have a solution between Moroni, Chemosit to deload that link and have a quick solution that goes from Moroni to Ndiwa. How do we quickly, even as we build the long haul line between Narok and Bomet, can we have a 33 kV line to support the Bomet area, which can be built in 3 months using poles, concrete poles instead of the big towers. So yes, we've talked to intervention, and we do appreciate the fact that it is not tenable to continue having the kind of national blackouts that we have. But unfortunately, like I said, when we have not done an investment for a long time in the network, these are the results of what happens. And even if we fix it today, you give us the money today, we cannot build a network in 1 day. It will take 20 months. But in those 20 months, like I said, we are working with the engineering team to see the mitigation measures to be able to reduce that, including load shedding certain pockets of the regions which are demanding so much power and therefore overloading the links. So we are working on that. We'll have a fairly comprehensive solution by this Thursday to see how to mitigate that challenge. As regarding, I don't know where I fumbled, but I said, well, when I started, I said we know the problem. We do know the problem.